Baruch Hashem, Chesmar Cheshvan Tov Shin Pei Dalet. We started yesterday the Maimer Vayelech Ish, which we're in the Maimer Vayelech Ish. We're going to discuss the idea of Eish, Shalamayla, the way it relates to the Nefesh Bahamis. This after our discussion, the previous Ma'amarim, there's this Eretz Ruach Min Mayla, which one is Eretz Ruach just awakens and allows for Avodah, and one is Eretz Ruach actually is the Avodah, where through your preparation in Zikuch of the world, of Zikuch of the Nefesh Bahamis, in Zikuch through Bittul, and working with the Nefesh Bahamis, you could then create a lasting effect in the Oifen that this Eretz Ruach Shalamayla will affect you in the Oifen of an Avodah, not just on this Eretz which comes and goes right after davening. And with that, we started that discussion yesterday. What is the Avodah we said is a Shalamata of the Nefesh Bahamis. What is the idea of the Shalamata which is Shaykh and Nefesh Bahamis? So we started discussing that the difference between the creation of the Malachim. To understand that, we introduced the difference between a Koyach HaPoyel, when someone does some type of work, to Ziva Shemesh. The Ziva Shemesh, the idea of Ischachos, it's a renewal to some extent, and therefore it's always dependent on the Shemesh. Whereas when someone does an Avodah and a Keli, that is a Yesh Miyesh, and therefore once nothing of the Keli remains in the Koyach HaPoyel that you worked on, and the Koyach HaPoyel can separate itself from the Keli afterwards, and they're Chaser Shleimus in an extent. As we'll see over here, we'll start here towards the end of Kuf Lamed Ches, Amud Kuf Lamed Ches. So we said that Koyach Adam Chaser Shleimus, Avol Beziva Shemesh, there's a renewal in the Ziva Shemesh which didn't exist before. The Imki Ein Zeh Ischachos Lagamri, it's not a real Ischachos, it's not a real renewal like a Yesh Me'ayin. The ray still exists in the sun. The idea here is that there's no Ischachos, there's no renewal when we're talking about the Shemesh. Relation to the world, who is Ischachos, it's still a renewal. You cannot have the sun balad Hashemesh. So we're saying here, because it's Ischachos, it's a new thing. So we say here, also there's an idea, and when one light is connected in its source, it always remains there. But he says, something that cannot be without its source, like the rays of the Shemesh, so even though there is this idea of that's more in spiritual things in the higher olamas. Once something is a nivra, for example, the shemesh, the something that's connected to its source, like the ziva shemesh, it's because of its chachos. There's a difference in how they connect. If it's a ben lamor, if it's just a light and a source, lenivra bara to creation and a creator, which God's been zevdi ramasal tikuri smutad. There's a difference in the life and the way it's in the creation. So that's either the way it's emanated and it's either the way it's actually created. But we see al kaponim that mitzad ischachos the ziv cannot exist without the shemesh. She'ein shleimus b'aziv b'li amar, and the ziv does not have a shleimus, does not have a completion without the source. Without the shemesh, even after it's spread out, the rays come out. The essence of the rays still ba'amar, still in the gufa shemesh, like we said. If Adar and Be'eser says it's much stronger in the body of the sun. The completion is always in the source of the light. Besides for the fact that it's a source, there's also the completion that comes from the rays. There, it's totally nullified in existence. A similar difference. The nimshal, what we learn out of this mashal of the ziva shemesh and the shleimus koyach adam, the nimshal mizeh yuval l'mayla. We'll also understand it when we look at the l'mayla. Us creations, we're ischachos. Like rays of the sun, everything comes from the Eibishter. The creation of a yesh is from something that never existed. We always need the source. Like the ray, which constantly needs the sun. Even the actual life which keeps us alive, that is included in the source, it's included in the body. The name to shaman over there, and the higher oilim in the body, whichever level of shirish that the person comes from, that the yesh comes from, is so much stronger. These two inyanim. That number one, the ziv constantly needs the mar. So too the chayas of the nivra constantly needs a makar. Number two, the fact that the ziv is always called b'yesr in the mar. So too the chayas of the nivra is b'yesr much stronger in the source. The pasuk says, with you is the source of life. Pirush hamakar. So pirush, the explanation is hamakar chayim shemislavish b'chol nimtzoyim. This makar chayim, which goes out and encloses itself in everything to create them, nimt yeshno imcha. It's with you. The hanim b'guf hamor, it exists in imcha in the source. This that the nivra now is a renewal. It makes no difference to the body, like a ray of a sun makes no difference to the sun. It doesn't add any shlemus. Whereas the kli, with the koyach hapayil, this mice of shlemus and it creates a new thing. Aleph, one reason, number one, it's just a shine that comes out of something. It's not really a yesh on its own. That's number one. This that they feel like a yesh, this that they're renewed in open of a yesh. This is only in the way they feel. We said in the brackets, top of right at the end of Kuf Lamed Tes, the renewal is just the Gabi Lo'ilam. But in the Guf HaShemesh, it existed there before. They're only renewal in the way they feel in the existence of the world. The second reason why it's not Ma'aseh Shleimus, they exist even in the source. So now that they come out, there's no chidush. It was constantly existing. These are the 10 spheres which are hidden in Atzmos, which exist, which have in them everything that would be created. They are the roots, the sources of the kelim. The Shiur ba'atzim b'kayach, the Eibishter kaviyachol estimated in potential in his Atzmos what's going to be b'boil, so everything's already there. And this is all like the shine, which is the rays which are included in the Atzmos. Even though it's not in existence like at the future revelation, because in the source they're totally nullified in existence. They're there al kaponim in an estimation. This completion, this idea of shlemus isn't lacking. Like we explained in the beginning of the Maimer, the idea of potential is not lacking outcome. Therefore, the fact that it exists over there to some extent is bichlal not a shaila of chachas. If so, how could we call the Bria Yesh Me'ayin if it's not Yesh Me'ayin, since this always existed? Since the life and also their existence, Kol Tchila existed initially. And also now it's still existence, but Bamar in the source of the life. In Kei Ma'is Chachas, what's the renewal? Whatever existed, Hushaniya, that is now which exists. The idea is this that we say that the creation that the creation of beings from the Eibishter who kamash lam shachas maziv hashemesh, it's like rays coming from the sun. So it's in order to say shabitl anivraim etzli yisbarach, the bitl, the nullification, the being mevatel of creation to the Eibishter who kibitl ziv hashemesh, it's like the rays of the sun nullify themselves to gabe hashemesh. There would be no other reason for the existence of this being, not for the Eibishter. Just like the rays of the sun do not have a siba acheres, another reason, klal at all, zulas hashemesh. Lafuke, this comes to exclude or to take away the other scenario where we discussed mipulas adam basically. When a person does something in a kli, this keli does have a principal existence, another reason besides for the man. V'yamateches, this is the material, the metal, or eitz, or the wood, or afar, or the earth, shemimeno hasakli, which existed before. This existed without the person. The vessel does not have to nullify itself to the person. It's its own being. It does not need the person at all. But the creation, there's nothing else there besides for the Eibishter. The course totally nullified to the Eibishter. It's not a thing for itself. Only because the source, then it constantly needs its source. How he enumerates this in every single level of rotten will and seichel intellect. Nevertheless, even though this nivra is always bottled to the Eibishter and constantly needs it, we're not going to now estimate or create a comparison at all of Isavas and Ivraim Menu Yisbarach. We're not going to say that it's really the same thing. It's a mashal. Comes to explain how the same way that Ziv HaShemesh is not is chachos, but it still needs it. So too the nivra always needs the. So too the nivra always needs the Eibishter. But we're not going to say that it's the same thing at all. Sharei Haziv, the Rei, Hume'ein, Mahutz HaShemesh Mamash. It's from the same essence, same style, same characteristics of the sun itself. V'nimtza comes out that Haziv is Mamash Ba'Shemesh. It's actually in the sun. Ba'oifen, K'moshe Mizgalas Achach. Exactly the same way it's going to reveal itself afterwards. And we'll see later how the general, when he says later over here, he says quite some time, another 100 pages, so another 50 days in Mitzvah Hashem. So he says that the general light of the Eibishter, Livnei HaTzimtzum, is not comparable. It's not comparable at all to this mashal of the Ervis Ziv HaShemesh. But Al Kapanim over here, we can also see it, how the Ziv is exactly there by the Ziv Yesh Meyesh. So we literally see by the Ziv HaShemesh, Yesh Meyesh, because it's exactly there the way it was. It was a Yesh, comes out a little bit in a different knife, and then it goes out of the Kader HaShemesh. It's now not in the body of the sun, it's outside. It still needs it always, because it's the idea of its chachas. But Loi Kein Isavas and Ivraim Meni Yisparech, cannot say the same thing about the emanation of creations coming from the Eibishter. There's no comparison between the creation and the creator. It's like a yesh coming out of an ayin and efsa muchlat, a yesh coming out of something that totally doesn't exist before. Even the life, which is like we said earlier, the Ziv Hashem would say, no, this is still a yesh me'ayin. The life that comes out to create the world comes out from a yesh me'ayin. Even this chayas, when it's comparable to its source, it's considered yesh me'ayin. Once this chayas comes down to be mechayah the nivra, it's a resh, it's a yesh, because it's still included in the makar, it's ayin. So even the chayas that comes down to mechayah the oilamus, even the chayas that comes down to mechayah the oilamus is a oifen of the yesh ma'ayin, u'mekoshkin gufa nivra, the actual body should be chinas yesh ma'ayin. Just like the physical creation of the world from the Eibishter, and the physicality of the world is not comparable to the spirituality in the world, but it's a renewal of yesh ma'ayin. So true that according to the comparison of Ziv HaShemesh to the Koyach HaBorei, that we said that is a schachas in the two efanim. That number one, it's just a aura. Number two, it existed in the makar before, and that's a sferis hagnuzis. We talk out a good question. It's yesh meyesh. But we say no. At the end of the day, you can't compare it. At the end of the day, the bittul and Ivraim and the way they come out, even the chayas becomes like a yesh meyesh. It's a yesh ma'ayin, because it has to go through a whole different stage of seder stashlos. It's not the same thing that existed in the Borei, which is now in the nivra. You can't compare it like the Ziv HaShemesh, which is exactly the same thing, only now went through a different process that is coming out. V'im kain. Haziv The shine, the same shine, the chayas, is still at the end of the day, which keeps the creations alive every moment. Without them, there'll be nothing. Really, the existence of creations are just this ayin alikiyah. So there's still this ayin within us, which is perhaps the same thing that's there before, al kaponim, similar to the way it was before, but the gufa nivra and the chayes nivra is still no way comparable to the yesh ma'ayin. This shine, v'gam etzem nivraim, and also the actual essence of the creations, kol b'makar and seif baruch hu canal, they are included in the source, in the Eibishter baruch hu. V'yeser is much stronger, v'yeser is more power. In this galas haziv, the revelation of this shine is not moitziv chas v'shalom shum shleimus klal ba'erin seif. Does not add any completion in the Eibishter. If you came l'inyan abitul anivra le'eretz le'zev baruch hu, when it comes to the bittul, like pachas u'mashal berach bittul aziv v'shemesh. When it comes shemesh v'shemesh, when it comes to the idea of bittul, the chayes is no different than the bittul of ziv v'shemesh. Because on the one hand, it's exactly the same thing that was there before, and it's not moisef anything because of that. Because mitzad the Eibishter, there's no nafkim in it before and after. But mitzad the nivra, you can't compare. At the end of the day, it's not the same exact thing that comes out before. Maybe this is what he means in the brackets, and I'll go into more details in this in Amud Reish Nun. But I think al kaponim it's somewhat intuitive how the chayas is taka, the same thing mitzad the Eibishter, but on the other hand there is a pseis chachos over here. There's no chachos. It is a chachos, something different. Okay. Yeah. Shabitl bebeis dvar. The idea of bitl is two things. Aleph, shaziv tzarich tamid la'amar. To shine constantly needs a source. Ve'enu yesh b'fnei atzmai. And that also, and it's no yesh on its own, and that also exists by the neshama, or the chayes haliki. Va'beis, shagam ba'amar, also in the source, lo yechzer, it doesn't lack anything. Afilu hashleim, it's even the completion yesh ba'aziv. Milvad ma, shemahu sa'mar, meshubach v'shalom le'in shir ma'aziv. Even though, besides for the fact that the essence of the mar, the source, is much better and much more quality and much more complete than the shine. Shezeu shleimus achid's idea of a separate idea of shleimus. This is the general shleimus that an etzem has over the shine that comes out of it. Even whatever type of shleimus you're going to find in the ziv. And by nimshal I know in spheres, and the nimshal we're talking about that spheres over here. Like we're going to talk about later what the shleimus in that spheres is. Even that shleimus does not lack in the mar at all. Even the actual physical shine that comes out, this ray, exists in the mar much more. When we go back to the nimshal, look at the bittul and nivraim. To the Eibishter sheyesh b'ritol zeh beis dvarim. We have two things. Aleph, constantly need the Eibishter's light. We're not a metzias on our own at all. And if the light of the Eibishter is gone for a second, then the ganze zach is bottle. Doesn't exist anymore. It's constant need. V'abeis, shegam ba'amor b'etzer baruch hu, also in the source of the light, in the Eibishter baruch hu. So nothing is lacking. Any type of completion you're going to see sheyesh b'atzilos b'ri etzer asir we have in the Ilmus. It exists there exactly the same way like it's in the source. The idea of the bittul, the idea of the bittul of the nivraim in this case, who she'enam Moisifim, they do not add shum shleimus, they do not add any additional shleimus. Ve'in seif baruch hu. Ve'einen oisim shum shinui chas v'shalom. They do not make any change at all in the Eibishter. Timtzal nivroim. On our end, when we want to look at it, we're not teifis at all to add anything through our existence. V'nimtza the beis minei bittul, there are two types of bittul, shnei nyanim havchim, and two opposite things in a sense. On the one hand, that's how we constantly need the Eibishter. That's the idea that the Eibishter, the Chayes Haliki, is close to us. But we're not tefis makim to add anything. That's the idea of Richuk, where they don't need us anymore. So on the one hand, there's an idea of a symbiosis. On the other hand, there's the idea of total separation. So the Kabbalah Sikkim over here, before we continue, we kind of discussed the mashal of the Ziv HaShemesh and the Shemesh. We explained how it applies to the Nimshal, and then we explained how it's different in the sense that there it's a Yesh Me'yesh, here it's still a Yesh Ma'ayin, but in the Oifen of the Bittul it's exactly the same, and therefore it's this kind of mashal works. He plants an ear, you won't hear if you make a eye. Sorry, Hanoi to Oizen, and you will not hear. Speak me if he makes an eye, you will not see. Who would say, which silly man would say that when you make an ear, it's not going to hear? That the pasuk has to say, who would say that? Obviously, if there's an ear, you'll hear it. That's how Hemshech created you. There is as far to say that since Hemshech is uplifted and way beyond the creations, we cannot even compare the shleimus that we have to the Eibishter. The idea of seeing and hearing Zamal and Ephraim, that's a mile that we have creations. But there's nothing to say. So we're saying, he makes us a ear. Well, how can we say that? Oh, for sure he can hear. Of course, yeah, but our shleimus of hearing is not together the shleimus of the Eibishter. Obviously, the Eibishter knows and looks over every single detail. If it's knowing the known, the yedea that it's enclosing itself. So there's a difference if it's a yedea or a yedua. Yedea means someone that goes out and yents to know about it. Yedua means it's just known. So it's more like they advertise it and you pick it up. The yedea, yeah. So if it's yedua, then it's a different idea of tir. Over there, there's the difference of the Esses of Atzilus, which is more the idea of Yedeya, and then the Yedua, which is the Hashkach of the Esses Agnuzis. It's true, the Eibishter is taka much higher, and nothing's comparable to him. Nothing in front of the Eibishter is important. Since at the end of the day, the Eibishter does create eyes and ears. Okay. The shleimus that's there, obviously they have to exist there as well. Actually, they have in a much higher way. As it's known, the this goes on malachim. They're called the balabatim of watching or being mashkiach, looking over. Of Eini Hashem, Oznei Hashem, the ears and the eyes of the Eibishter. Because mizeh, the Torah Erdim Ramaskal Erdon no of Atzilus and Chilas Chachma Bina Shnekrem Rio Shmiya, the Kol Zashayach Ba'or V'ziv Me'iti Yisbarach. It's all related to the light and the shine of the Eibishter. The B'zeh Daf K'shayach Mitzvah Asfiras Chachma Bina. Since this light is included in the light of the Eibishter, there's also the level of Esser Sfiras, they're much higher level. The actual existence, their difference, are not an actual existence, and the way they're combined one with another. This comes again to show us whatever shleimus the shine has also exists in the atzmos, just like the rays of the sun is included in the sun. And this is where we compare. The creation of the nivroim, so it's at the bittul, then we create, like we said in the previous paragraph. We'll do this night the Eisen part again tomorrow to get a bit of a Clark.